Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing a review on Brandon Sandersons Mistborn series. I just read the second book called Well of Ascension, and I have been wanting to talk to you guys about this for about 3 days now, and I'm finally having the time to sit down and film. So go ahead and get a snack, a drink, and let's go ahead and get into it. So I read The Well of Ascension in about 3 days. So when I first started The Well of Ascension, I didn't know if I would be interested in it. I didn't really know where the story was going to go. And at first, for the first maybe 20 pages, I couldn't get into it, if that makes sense. It's not that the story wasn't good and I couldn't actually get into the story. I had forgotten who the characters were because it's been 2 months since I've read the book. So that was pretty much my main issue, and thankfully that went away pretty quickly. But since I am an esthetician and I went back to work, and when I don't have clients, I have downtime, I have a lot of time to read now, so I read this book super fast. But what happened with this is I also read it at home. So typically I'll read it at work, I'll read it, when I have time, but when I'm home, I'm working on videos, I'm relaxing, I'm watching TV, I don't want to read. That wasn't the case with The Well of Ascension. This book gripped me and kept me interested and kept me guessing, and I loved this book. I have a book hangover. I love it. And also with this review, it's going to be a spoiler review. How my reviews go typically is if I have the first book in the series is going to be a non-spoiler review, but after that, I go ahead and spoil just because in my mind, if you haven't read the first book in a series, why would you be watching the review on the second or third book in the series? So I went ahead and decided on these books, I am going to go ahead and do a spoiler review. So let's go ahead and kind of get into the nitty gritty. It starts out about a year after they took down the Lord Ruler, and Eland is now the king, and then Vin is now his bodyguard basically, and they are in a relationship as well. That comes with its complications because Vin, what I loved that Brandon did with her in this aspect is Vin's lost a lot of people. Vin's never had, everything she loves leaves her. Even in the first book, she says, "When will you leave me?" It's always in the back of her mind. It's even mentioned she still keeps a little bit of food in her room because she doesn't want to not think that the threat is there, that she could lose all of this. And if she does, she wants to be prepared. It's the same with Eland. So she loves him and he loves her, but she is scared of losing him. And I think that's why she's so obsessed with protecting him. To the point it gets a little, not obsessive, but it gets unhealthy in my opinion at some points. Because instead of enjoying her time with him, she decides to be like, no, I can't. It's almost like a defense mechanism. Now that I think about it, is no, I can't be spending time with you. What if we get attacked? She's always thinking about losing him, so she doesn't spend as much time with him as she should be, in my opinion. She does realize that at the end of the book, and that does change, and that made me really happy because I was rooting for them. I thought they were a super cute couple, and yeah. So Vin, this whole book was amazing. So basically what happens is Eland's father decides to attack the city, and so he is put into a siege because Lord Set also comes by, and so they have two armies ready to take the city, and they do not have the army to protect themselves. Eland doesn't. Eland and Vin do not have an army to fight two armies on one front. So constantly in this book they are trying to figure out how to manipulate, how to work this, how to make sure that they don't have to fight them. And it reminds me a little bit of the first book because it reminds me of a heist. Elin goes in to the camp, and I loved that scene when Elin went into the camp with Vin. And oh my gosh, I loved that whole scene and how genius it was. And how when Elin gets backed up against a wall, he kind of uses Vin, but also he's really smart about it. He threatens his father. And I love how Vin just I just loved Vin in that scene and how she just kind of played along with him and was really, really proud of Elend. I loved that dynamic, and I loved seeing them work together. I love what Brandon does with things where he won't tell you the whole story. He won't tell you why somebody's acting a certain way, and then all of a sudden it's revealed. And he does it all the time with plot points and people, and it's amazing. And he just does a glorious job at it. So that was one of my favorite scenes. Another thing was Brandon kept me guessing throughout this whole book. What Brandon does really well is he doesn't just say, okay, we have Elend as king and we gotta get this army away. No. He makes it so lifelike. He makes it... Yeah, they have an army outside, but they also have spies inside the castle now. They also have another Mistborn. They also have X, Y, and Z thing. They have a lot of different things that they have to tackle all at once. But also, they're very dangerous threats, but also, things come up. Like, the daughter of Set comes in and is like, oh, I'm in love with Ham. And they have to deal with that. They have to deal with all these other things that come up, especially just everyday things, like Vin and Elend's relationship. With Vin and Elend, what I liked the most about them was, number one, I loved Elend's growth in this. He went from just being a scholar and a rich boy to a king. He really got scholared and taught how to be a king, how to hold himself, and you really see him kind of take that into his own and really grow into that position. And I loved seeing that for him because I think he really needed that. I also really liked how both Elend and Vin are very insecure. They're very insecure about how they don't think that they deserve each other. And I think that that's so relatable in relationships that it was fun to see Vin's side and then kind of get into her mind and see how she saw things. And then you assume, oh, well, Elend, like, that's not the issue. Like, he loves Vin, and, Vin's the or whatever. But basically, Elend's thinking he doesn't deserve Vin. And so they're both thinking that they're undeserving, and eventually, she goes to Sazed for counsel, and he's like, you guys need to, like, I think in one scene it's Vin, and then it's Elend immediately after going to Sazed for this advice, and he's like, can you guys just stop being insecure and just be happy? And I liked how Brandon showed that because I think it's a really, really relatable thing. Yes, they have this whole entire army and they have threats and she's scared he's gonna die, but also it's mundane. It's, even though all this is going on, we still have our emotions to take care of. We still have everyday things that happen that we have to deal with. And I really liked how Brandon showed that in this book. Another thing that I loved, there was a comment that I loved, and it was after Vin had gone to Sazed, I think that's how you say his name, for advice, and somebody says, I think I would really be more confident in this country if I didn't know that our Mistborn, our most powerful weapon, had the emotions of a teenage girl. And I just laughed at that. I thought that was so funny. Because this book had a lot of growth. It was almost a coming of age story in some ways for Elend, but also for Vin. I think also something that I love about Vin is how Brandon doesn't... Vin is incredibly strong Mistborn. She's pretty much undefeatable because she's so strong, and she doesn't know why she's so strong. We still don't know why. But there's a scene, and this scene is probably one of my favorites in the entire book, and it's final fight with Zane. And in this fight, number one, she realizes why she loves Elend so much and why she needs to stop being so insecure about him, and she really kind of does a 180. And I loved that. But also, Zane has Atrium. And Atrium, as you guys know, is that thing that lets you see into the future, and basically you're powerful enough and nobody can beat you if you're not burning Atium. I think that's how you say it, Atium. And so she basically realizes she's about to die. And she realizes her powers are not going to have any use. And I think in books, oftentimes, kind of like in a lot of things, I wanted to use Avengers, but I don't think this happens in Avengers. But basically, I guess it does. When Cap says, take the suit off and what are you? It's kind of, if you don't have those powers, is that who makes you? You know, are your powers what makes you powerful? If you didn't have this, would you be able to win in a fight? Would you be able to do the things, not the exact things, but do the things that you could do with the power? And oftentimes it's not very explored, or it's a no. And what Brandon does in this scene is he takes away all of Vin's power. He matches her. Zane has Duralinium. Don't know how to say that either. Zane has Atrium. Zane tricks her with Atrium. I mean, she realizes she has to not rely on her powers. She has to rely on her mind. And from being on the streets, she has a very sharp mind, and she uses that to her advantage. She realizes in this book, yes, I've had this power, but I also had this power when I didn't know I had this power, and I survived. So what makes it, why can't I survive with it, with knowing, you know, if it was taken away from me, I feel like I could still survive. And so in this scene, she uses those tactics a little bit, and she's like, stay small, stay small. That's how I survived. Let him beat me. And then she's like, she uses her mind. She's smart. She's like, okay, well, how can I do this? How can I do this without... She's just intelligent. And in the end, she beats Zane, and I love that scene. One of my favorite characters in this book is Orsur. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. I think his name is Tensoon. I think his actual name is... I could be wrong, but I forget what it is. But the dog, Vin's dog, I'll call it. I forget. It's not coming to me what that creature is right now. But anyway, Tensoon or Orsur. He was probably my favorite character just because of how funny he was. His humor was so dry and bland. To me, it was hilarious. Like, there was a scene where she absent-mindedly starts scratching his ears, and he's like, "Mistress, I don't know what to think about this." And I could just imagine this dog creature being like, I don't know. And I in my mind, that was like the funniest thing. He also had, like, Vim would say something, he goes, "Okay, well, I'm gonna pretend that I'll just assume that I know what you're talking about. The contract says that I have to... Yeah, I accept that answer." Cool. And he was just so funny. He also was incredibly loyal, and I loved the scene when Elend gets attacked in front of all the council members, and Vin has to fight off like 8 thugs, basically. He jumps up and he basically almost breaks the contract to save her life. And that was such a touching scene in that moment. The scene wasn't touching, but that moment was. And I really liked that character. I was really upset when he had to go. I hope to see him in the next book. I think that they created a really loving friendship and a really strong friendship at that. And I would also like to have his one-liners. I would really appreciate that. And I like to think he grew to like the dog form. I think he did, at least. I don't know why he wouldn't, but... Alright, let's see. What else can I say? Oh, I want to know more about the mist. So in this book, the mist is killing people. It's coming out during the day. It's killing people. But also, Vin sees a form, and not just Vin, but people will see like a humanoid form in the mist. And it points and it points and it kills and it does things. I want to know more about the mist because I have 2 sides to that. Half of me thinks that it's dead spirits. So I like to think that Kelsier is guiding her by pointing or something. I also feel like that with other characters who see the mist. I feel like it's somebody close to them guiding them. At the same time, though, there is an evil side to it. But I can't wrap my head around the evil and the good. So it can't be, because there's a part of me that wants to say, okay, it's all one creature. The mist is all one creature. But that doesn't make sense to me. So if it's not dead people, it might be its own creature. What's the word? Its own creature, like dogs. Like dogs is a breed. The mist would be a breed. Does that make sense? So it's a living thing, all-encompassing, all one, but it's not one mind. It's like, almost like the spirit realm, or like demons and angels, if that makes sense. So the mist is how it appears and is in the universe, but it doesn't mean that it's one thing. Am I making sense? I hope I am. I hope I am making sense. Okay, so let's see. What else could I talk about with this book? Obviously, I loved it. I cried a lot during this book, and I also laughed a lot during this book. But I think the main thing is Brandon is just a masterful writer, and I cannot wait to read the next book. I was tempted to start it, but actually after basically binge reading this book, and it's like 700 pages, I kind of had a headache, and I was like, okay, I need to take a break from this heavy of a book, especially because the next book, I feel like it's going to be more intense, obviously, but also Vin feels like she failed. And I feel like that's going to exhaust me and give me even more headaches. But I needed something light. So I'm currently reading The High King. And then I'm going to be reading another book before I do this book. But I have been so tempted to read this next book because I cannot get The Well of Ascension, out of my head. And I want to know your guys' thoughts. What did you think of this book? What did you guys think of this review? Give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for more content from me, and I'll see you guys in my next one.